for those of you who are actual fans of tokusatsu, or you are interested in women, you'll love this deck. Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm Mr. here. Today I am back to cover Arkhite. Is that how you pronounce it? Arkhite? Arkhite? I don't care at this point. It's a cute girl, okay? You can take out for dinner first and find out her names later. So basically, this is a new Brandt Gate deck from set 5, focusing around monsters or kaiju, depending on where you live. As you can probably guess, I can't actually afford this deck. Today we have Fate the 4th.
Once again, you know this is a budget deck, right?
Yes. So anyways, the thing is that Arkhite or Arkhite or what the hell you want to call her, actually has dropped quite a fair bit on price in terms of UUT, which is good news for us because it is actually really fun. She's a lot like Heroes. She's a lot like Welstra, but unlike the two of them, she's competent, which is scary. She turns a lot of the more budget and cheaper aspects of Brandt Gate in the last few sets to be actually quite cheap. Brandt Gate's been on a strange decline in terms of price, probably because it's a bad nation, right, Blau? Bad nation. So today we are gonna actually break it down and go through the card by card as well as the different kaiju options. You'll be surprised though that despite the fact that we have such a large pool of kaijus for the last 8 sets now, not a lot of them actually make the cut. It's only a selected few that do. And we recommend you to pick up the ones that are already out, but most of the good ones are from this set, so I wouldn't worry. So for the right deck, we play Arkhite, we play Arkhite, we play Woman, we play Girl. So let's break it down real quick. So we obviously just play her as the starter because she's the best girl, she's the best starter. It's really as simple as that. For the grade 1, we just play her grade 1 form. Her grade 1 form is really simple.
You have to write on top of the grade 0.
You have to write on top of specifically the grade 0. See, I knew it. And then after that, you can search your deck for a research card and add it to your hand. Now, research is the other card that she shares in common with Eva, who is her colleague, as you can see in this art. Maybe we'll do an Eva deck profile. So, generally speaking, you want to look for only one research that's more integral to Arkhite, which is going to be torrential energy research, which we'll get to that in a bit. But her theme of her deck is all about her kaijus. Eva's theme is about her husband, so it's quite simple in terms of the researchers and the cards you play are relatively different, but there are a few cards that do overlap. Then of course you have the other Arkhite, who looks a lot like Akane from SSS Gridman. Yep, I want to be in those spots too. When you write her on top,
it's the same skill
of the grade 1, you
right.
actually can search your deck for another research and add it to your hand.
Yeah. So
I wonder what it will be.
So in case you're not catching on, this is basically the same as the Eva right line.
It's
like
basically
almost 1 for 1, except she doesn't have the glitter icon. Yeah. That's about it.
So yeah, and then of course the grade 3 is of course her again. And that kaiju in the background.
Oh yeah, you have to specify her name. Is Monster Creator Arkhite.
This one is the only one that states monster or kaiju in the name. The rest actually don't. So this actually can be searched out with all your monster-based cards, which is important because you basically can search your persona rights. Good afternoon, Graham Grace. So that's basically about it in terms of the name.
Yes.
What does it do?
Oh, so Arkhite is actually Arkhite is quite a very very packed grade 3 in terms of the amount of abilities that she has. So her first ability is that when you call a kaiju, any card with kaiju or monster in its name, you choose a card with the same name as the card that you just called from the order zone and you put it into the bottom of the deck.
Wow.
And the card unit will gain 10k.
Yeah.
So and then this is not restricted by your opponent's grade. It is not restricted by anything, no cost, no nothing. If you call it, you have the same name, you put it to the bottom, it gains 10, and automatically your 10s become 20. If you go first, the magic number. Your 13s or your 23s, your 13s or your 18s become 23 or 28. That's a magic number. Basically, she's very very good to deal with in terms of giving out early aggression as well as fighting back in the event that she gets rushed, because the numbers are very strong, and so as the amount of kaijus that we play, you are definitely going to have a very strong board of attackers with this.
It's a kaiju deck. You're gonna be playing kaijus. It's like playing Clarissa with Ernest Correct. It's like playing Shoujodoji with Stealth. You have to fill the deck with as many of the bloody thing as possible.
Yeah. Speaking of filling them up, her second ability is basically the reason why she's competitively viable, because as every overdressed deck, you have to have 4 attacks unless your name is Zorga. You want to be competitively viable.
What's Zorga?
So her second ability is that
Majesty or Blaster only has 3 attacks.
when she it has 4.
It's 3.
It has 4.
3.
It has 4.
3.
When she attacks, you counterblast 1. If you have activate all the following abilities depending on the amount of research that you have. If you have 3 or more research cards, you choose one of your rear guards with monster or kaiju in its name, and you put it into your order zone. And then the second ability actually doesn't require you to have 3 or more research. It is look at the top 7 cards of your deck, and you choose 1 card with kaiju in its name, only 1, and then you call it to a rear guard circle. And then that basically will proc the first ability, which means if you have a copy of that card,
That kaiju.
the kaiju and then in the order zone, you can then put that to the bottom, and then the court unit also gains 10k.
Yep, so basically this deck, in terms of how it looks like on the field, it's a lot like Ebisu. For those of you who do not know what Ebisu is, you are very fortunate. Have a good year.
Hug your parents.
Hug your parents. Tell them that you love them. Basically, treat this like a kaiju box. You use it to tool around your kaiju. You call your kaiju. You take your kaiju out of the box and put it back to the deck to use your stock copies to strengthen the ones you call. That's basically about it. We'll explain as the video goes along. But yeah, this Arkhite itself, Arkhite, whatever, is one of the decks I definitely recommend you to test for yourself. Because this is a deck that once you try it out about once or twice, you realize, hey, it's actually very easy. There's a lot of skill, there's a lot of text to read, a lot of things that you may not get in terms of just reading it or listening it from us. But when you actually try it out, you realize it's really easy. It's, I would say, more brain dead than Heroes, or even
No. You see, Heroes next set will get Combine Rusher. You see, their own Architect specific Combine Rusher is the strongest card ever.
Damn. Alright. Moving on to our grade 3s, we play 4 copies of her. Persona Right is good, and like I said, because you can search it, you genuinely have no reason not to. Then we play 4 copies of Volcano Kaiju Volkraken.
Yes.
So we talked about Arkhite just now, so I won't really get into it. Let's talk about Volkraken.
So Volkraken has 2 abilities. Is that when it's placed, Counterblast, when placed on anywhere. So once again, it's very, 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 very flexible. Counterblast 1. You choose a unit, and depending on the grades number or the number of research cards you have, you retire one of your opponent's rear guards equal to the grade with the grade that is equal to the number of research that you have. So more often than not, you'll be grade 3 or below, because you have 3 research. But if you, let's say, like, you stack 4 research on turn 4, you can then stack grade 4s, and you can stack your Esper Idea, and more often than not, you're gonna be sniping grade 3s and below. So this is basically very, very strong spot removal, and is one of the only counter blasts that you use in this deck. So you use very, very little CB in this deck, and you only ever retire when you absolutely have to. So generally, Arkhite doesn't really care about taking early damage, doesn't really care about taking a lot of damage so that you have a lot of counter blasts, and it also means that when you do adapt the extra CB, you can actually just spot remove whatever you want on the board. So your opponent has to be very careful about that. His second ability is that if you have when he attacks, you have 3 or more researchers in your order zone, it gains 5k. So it's an 18k attacker. If you use Arkhite's first ability, it becomes 28, which is very, very good numbers in Overdress. I say again, it's very, very good numbers. So just out of the box, no pun intended, just out of the box, Go Kraken is very, very good for Arkhite. It's his best beater, as well as also is good for utility and spot removal. And if you do see it in your searches, do take it. Usually you cannot really go wrong with it.
Moving on to our grade 2s. Our grade 2s, we still play 1 copy of Arkhite for the right deck. We play 4 copies of Cyclone Monster, Cyclogade. Cyclogade is definitely a reference to older Showa era kaiju, which is nice. We play 2 copies of
Experiment Successful.
This is the research order from set 5. This was Eva's first research until the Japan fight inflation. So this is a really good card, and of course we play our last 2 kaiju, which is going to be this guy, and he's actually really, really good. So breaking it down real quick, Arkhite is from the right deck. His skill is very simple. When discarded during your turn, you can look at the top 5 cards of your deck for an order card and add it to your hand. Now, as I mentioned before, we want to make sure we get as much research as possible. We have 4 researchers in his deck that's focused around the Kaijus. So generally speaking, these are the ones you search out with Arkhite. That leaves you with about 2, plus you have another 2 researchers in the deck. So you have a lot of targets just to look for. And we only play 2 because we don't want it to have a 4-off and then it clogs our monster kaiju box.
Yeah, because this deck has no discarding. So Tecton really doesn't do anything other than having the kaiju name, as well as early game helping you guarantee the 3rd order.
Yeah, and that's actually why moving into the rest, we actually play 2 copies of the other research.
So experiment success, this is something that I decided to put into the deck after more testing, because Tecton at 4, while it is more monster targets, sometimes it comes out as a beater. More often than not, I did almost miss the 3rd research order. So it is good to play 2 extra copy, and then this is the only research order we can play because the other 2 rely on you having an Ava Vanguard with the glitter ability. So, and then experiment success ability is that when it's put into the order zone, you can play it for free, and when it's put into the order zone, draw a card and then choose 1 card from your hand and discard it, and you have 3 or more researchers at the moment that you put it into the order zone. So that means that you would have 2 researchers before that, and then you put it into the order zone. Soul Blast 1, you choose one of your opponent's rear guards and bind it. So this basically gives Arkhite at least some extra utility against matchups that are like extremely piece reliant, like Phantom Blaster Overlord, both Jiva as well as Maha Nirvana. As well any deck that is very reliant on drop zone recursion.
Goodbye
or
Zorga.
Piece reliancy.
Goodbye Maelstrom.
Yeah.
Goodbye Flatbook.
And because it's a research, there's really no consequence to running it, basically. And as well as also it doesn't require a counter blast, unlike the double rare that we got in set 8, which you can run. Okay, where is it? Robust. So this is the other option if you are thinking of consistency for your Kaijus. No, consistency for your order. You get 3 or more orders in your order zone. But generally, I think playing two extra orders as well as playing Tecton, you're more often
and
than
it's not
not.
a kaiju, you're playing so many shieldless cards, you're playing so many later game cards, it just doesn't make sense. To play robust means you need to also play more copies of the orders to constantly search. The only option for that, if you played it, would be Tectonic Energy Research. So frankly speaking, it's just not a good card to play. If you want to spike more Brandt Gate generics, I think it's a great idea. But if you want to actually play to win your games, no, not so much.
Yes. Moving on, we have Cyclone Guardian. So Cyclone Guardian is also Cyclone Guardian is a kaiju that we got from set 8, and is probably the second best kaiju in this entire deck because it solves a lot of the deck's problems. The first ability is that when it's placed, choose a kaiju from your drop zone and you may put it into your order zone. So this will basically let you set up your order zone very quickly with kaijus. Cause as we'll get into later, you're only able to create a set amount of kaijus into your order zone, and it might not be fast enough depending on how fast the game has been going. Its second ability is that when it's put into the Guardian Circle, if you have 2 or more research orders in your order zone, it gains 5k shield. So 10k shield in 5k shield format, you really cannot go wrong with this, especially since it's live on turn 2 rather than being a turn 3 card. It's just live on turn 2, so it's even better than Obscure in terms of being high shield value.
Obscure. And then we are going to move on to our grade 1s. Our grade 1s, we play our grade 1 Arkhite. This is definitely a reference to the monster graveyard. It definitely is. There's no way it's not. Waifus is from the new set, and it's support for both Eva and Arkhite. And this is definitely another Ultraman reference for those of you who like those mascot monsters like, say, Hanejiro or Pega. This is definitely a walking reference to that, so pick it up if you're a fan of the franchise. 4 copies of Bombo Mine. If you're a fan of money or Machina Blau, pick it up. 4 copies of Tectonic Energy Research, because this is the main research, and we play 4 of the Kaiju PR.
From PG. From the
Kaiju PG,
from the trial deck.
Yes, so this is actually from the start deck from the start
from
of
the
D.
from the prison start.
From the prison start. So it's a kaiju, so you can actually search it out, you can actually play around with it. It's just really good. There's no reason for you to play the normal PG. This is when broke actually is woke. It's really good. Please play it. Please play. If you're playing the stronger PG, throw it away, buy a start deck, order it from Amazon Japan. I don't care. Play this.
Yes. And then also the one thing about the reason why we're not playing Elementario Scientits. Yes, it's good in the flag matchup. Yes, you do need. Yes, you do need against Chrono Jet. But one thing about the flag matchup is that unlike the booster set PG, it's the same wording as every PG that we've had up till the booster set PG, which is that is the discard a card is a cost rather than a mandatory part of the ability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the thing is that you can actually drop this, discard, and then
nothing happens. Whereas the booster PG, you will have to activate the PG for every single perfect card that you put onto the garrison.
Yeah,
so it is very important for the Flagman matchup. If you are scared of Chrono Jet, there's nothing stopping you from playing at Sanctitude, but only if you're scared.
Chrono Jet's on the way out. Kidani told me that. And then of course, Bomber Mine. I'll give you the answer.
Bomber Mine. I mean, the thing is that I think we should go over Waybros first.
Okay, Waybros, I want to do Waybros. Waybros skill is when placed on a rearguard circle, if your Vanguard is Eva with Glitter or Arkhite, you Soul Blast 2, you draw 1 card. This is the main Soul Blast route. This is the main way you plus, not main, but it's a good way to plus. It's basically Silver Fang Witch, or the card that's completely screwing over D right now. GG. The second skill is where it gets even more nutty. Its skill is that if you have 3 or more research, 3 or more research, it gains 5,000 power. So not only did you build in a 13k booster, you built in a Soul Blast 2 to draw 1 for 2 decks. Eva doesn't really play Waybros because there's not much space. You can play Waybros, but
so it's also
Eva has so much good shit at this point. It's I don't know.
But more importantly, also Eva doesn't have to soul for it.
And Eva doesn't have to soul for it. That's right. Unless you use the PR that was inflated to hell. You put it to the soul, right?
Or we have another card that goes to soul. Bobo Mine.
We solved it.
So Bobo Mine was, I think it was a very, technically it's not our first kaiju because the perfect guy is our first kaiju.
Yeah,
but
don't disrespect.
It's probably the most influential kaiju from set 1 all the way until now. It's been expensive ever since set 1. It's only gonna get more expensive now thanks to Arkhite.
Not really.
So his ability
who
is.
Who else plays this?
Still quite a lot of this.
Who?
I mean, Eva,
Okay.
some prison players still play this.
Okay.
Yeah. So Office,
No.
Yelstra.
No. Blue Deathsters! Okay, yes.
Yes.
So,
Avant-garde, yes, of course.
Yes,
So
yes.
Bobo Mine, his ability is very simple. At the end of the battle that he boosts, put into the soul and counter charge 1.
Yep.
So basically you refund both resources at the same time.
Which is very good for Grand Gris!
And for the very low amount of counter blast that you use in this deck, in the event that you can still get damage stroke if you get greedy or your opponent actually puts out quite a number of rear guards that need to be retired, so you end up using Go Kraken like twice in 1 turn, and well as using Archive. So it's 3 counter blasts 1 turn. Bobo Mine basically can help you refund that as you pace yourself out more.
Yep.
As well as helps you fill your soul, because you use Waybros once, you have 1 soul left only. And you Persona Right, you have 2 soul. And you use Bobo Mine on your Persona Right turn, you get back to 1 soul. So it means you Persona Right again, you can use Waybros again.
Yep. But that depends how many copies of Waybros you can get.
Yeah. Speaking of getting Waybros, we have probably the bread and butter of Arkhite, which is Tectonic Energy Research. So Tectonic Energy Research is the new research card. It is generic research, so it means you can play
this in Eva.
You can play this in Eva. It's not foreshadowing or anything.
It's not foreshadowing.
But Tectonic Energy Research has 2 abilities. Its first ability is absolutely stupid. Is when it is put into the order zone, if you look at the top 5 cards of your deck, you reveal 2 kaijus from among them. You choose 1 that goes to your hand, and the other goes to your drop zone. So it's the same wording as the Jakotsu girl for Shirayuki.
Basically, you straight up +1 or net 0, and you set up the drop zone by putting a kaiju.
Yeah, no, so which basically means that you +1 because that card that it goes into the order zone, that goes to the drop zone, will interact with the second ability of Tectonic Energy Research, which is it's an act for rest this card in your order zone. You choose 1 kaiju from your drop zone and you put it into your order zone. So let's say you soul blasted or you guarded with Arkhite, let's say, you can put it to the order zone. And if you end up calling an Arkhite or any kaiju that you want, we play. If you haven't noticed, we play a lot of kaijus in this deck. In case you haven't noticed, any card you want in your drop zone can be put into the order zone set up for you to be used during your battle phase or during your main phase to power up your entire field. So basically this one research is the reason why this deck works, is the reason why this deck is as strong as it is, because it not only pluses you, it also helps you set up for very, very strong power corners that Brandt Gate usually doesn't get so early on, especially not going first.
Unless you're playing Office. So it is a monster graveyard reference. You dig up the kaiju fossils, the kaiju souls, you put them in the graveyard, you put them back into the research, you put them into the lab, and then after that you ferment them and then they become big kaiju.
Yes.
Damn, this is wow, tokusatsu fans, your official clan is the same clan as Machina Blau.
Yes.
And then last but not
okay,
least...
no, before we move on, there is one more thing that we have to talk about regarding Wavy Ross. Is that if you may notice, we did actually get another Soul Charger in Brandt Gate.
Go ahead.
But it's not the one that you're thinking of. It's actually Mikani. So the new Mikani for Chaos, even though half of his ability is locked behind having a glitter unit with the name Chaos in his name, so playing it in Brandt Gate doesn't really work. It is a dual nation card in the end, so it does have some interaction with Wavy Rose, because he says when he plays Soul Charge 1 and then you can put him into the soul and call a Grade 3 Mikani from
you don't have Grade
3 Mikani from your soul. Oh, yeah, exactly. That's exactly why we don't play Grade 3 Mikani.
You use it for Alter Ego Messiah,
so basically,
last one you draw.
Yeah, basically you can call him, he Soul Charges you 1, then you can put him to the soul and blank the effect because it's not glitter reliant. Then that instantly sets you up to use another Wavy Ross again. So this is very jank. I mean, I don't have to tell you. Number 1, Mikani is not a kaiju. Number 2, Mikani will deck you out. And number 3, Mikani, you literally minus 1 body onto the board just to call another unit onto the board just to draw one.
And like we mentioned, this will be used in Alter Ego Messiah. This meme is from the future. You have been warned. Buy it now. Stop buying your Alter Ego SPs. It doesn't matter. No one cares about you. Buy Mikani. Go ahead.
Instead, you should buy the alternate art for Alter Ego Messiah that you got in your trial deck.
Yes! Our grade zeros, we obviously play 1 Architect, we play 8 crit, we play 4 heals, 3 draws, and of course,
our favorite win condition, Elder Brave.
Win condition, yeah.
Elder Brave. So Elder Brave, is a stupid card. I mean, I think every single Gravidia deck profile, you know what this does.
You know what it does.
You know what it does. Doubles your power, wins the game. And then draws.
We do need draws in this deck. Unlike
Eva, you don't actually plus that much directly to hand in this deck.
Despite the fact that
you have an order that lets you train out PGs to hand, you do actually still need beaters. So draws are very good, as well as playing 10k shields. You cannot go wrong with 10k shields.
Really can't go.
So this is really the only effect trigger that you should get, but it's not necessary. Like, you can easily play the trial deck draws, but for all intents and purposes, 10k you really cannot go wrong with 10k shield.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
And then our standard
for heal because it's card 5 Vanguard and there's no and then because we might not always get Bubble Mine, so playing the maximum amount of heals is always good.
It's just good in general. You don't want to play that.
And you play 8 crit because once again this deck has no crit pressure.
You are also playing a very strong multi-attack engine, so having some crit do help. You may be wondering why not play fronts, just like Graham Grace or Hexor, Agria. That's because when it comes to Archite, you actually have a lot of free power from the monster box, the Kaiju box, the box that is not from Monster Strike. Therefore, you actually do want to play crits so that you can actually double up on your critical pressure and then beat down and win. Archite is actually pretty competent on the turn 3 level, so having some extra crits flying around is always going to benefit.
And also because on turn 3, the thing about Arkhite is that your rear guard columns are very big, your vanguard column is very small.
Yeah,
so
your
the main way, and also because this deck also deck things very quickly. Even though you are putting cards to the bottom of the deck, you are removing cards.
No, generally just thins the deck.
Because as soon as you put the cards to the bottom, you are immediately gonna shuffle and then you're gonna immediately call them out again.
Yeah.
So one way or another. So you really do tag in very, very quickly, even faster than Eva, I feel. but not as like you don't get to train out what you want, but you do get to get things out of the deck very very fast. So this means that if you check, you can easily check double creep and just end your opponent immediately. They choose to get cocky or they don't have enough shield to guard your rear guards and vanguard at the same time.
And that wraps up our Arkhite deck profile. Is this deck worth? Absolutely. So you can tell price point of the deck is very circular in the sense that everything's just based on kaijus and what you have. Even, I say this, even if you cannot afford Bomber Mine, there are other cards out there that can help you counter charge for kaijus. There are a lot of other options that you can actually lean into and play. So it's really not the end of the world. I know we mentioned Go Ahead Mikani, but we do have other options that you can actually play as kaijus. You can play this guy. When he finishes boosting an attack that hits, you get to counter charge 1. It's also a great option because it's just free and easy on hits that you can throw around the board. With Arkhite, it can even go up to being an 18k booster, I mean. So yeah, that wraps it up for our deck profile. Let us know in the comment section if you intend to play this deck. If you are excited to see more kaijus, or if you're Machina Blau, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.
Bye bye.